I would hope that maybe the discussion this morning would be shortened in view of the memo that I've sent to members of council, that the province has clearly indicated that the Lakeview site is not required for electricity generation. And I had a letter from the minister last night I received at 10:30. It's something I've been pressuring the province to make a decision, to the point that I told Enersource Board yesterday that I think he was avoiding me every time I saw him. He said, when are you going to make up your mind as to whether Lakeview is required or not? Anyway, I want to compliment Charles D'Souza, the MPP, that has worked with me on this in getting an answer from the minister. I would hope that the presentation, we welcome the presentation of the Lakeview citizens that have done an outstanding job in looking at their area. They've been very progressive, they've been well, they've come up with some very creative ideas for their area, including, of course, the Lakeview site. And so, I hear their presentation this morning, but I would hope that it would not take the 2 hours or whatever time Councillor Corbison requested, so that we can get on, because of the staff. This was on the agenda before the Lakeview issue came up, and we don't want to keep the staff from working for you folks. It's loss of productivity. So I know we can't afford it. You folks can't afford it. We'll go on then with the will the council accept that the Lakeview issue should advance the presentation? So moved. All in favor? Carried. And therefore, I haven't seen the resolution, Councillor Corbison. I was hoping maybe I would have had a copy of it. So it's unfortunate.
On a point of order, might it be appropriate to read the resolution in advance of the speaker so they know where we're headed through the councillor? I think that might save us a little bit of time. If Councillor Corbison thinks that's appropriate.
Appropriate. It's a fairly long resolution. I think if we read it once, now is probably the appropriate time. I think the ratepayers know what the be it resolved is and what the salient points are, but it certainly will tie into the presentation that Mr. Tovey and Mr. Danahy are going to make. That's up to you, Madam Mayor, whether you'd like to read it now or...
Well, I don't know. First of all, these citizens are here. I would like to ask Jim Tovey as to how do you want to make a presentation before we deal with the resolution. I think when they come here, we have to give them the opportunity to express their opinion. So, Jim, would you like to come forward and indicate what you would like to present to us this morning, and then we'll deal with the resolutions? You have my memo.
I know, I cried. Sorry, I'm in Lakeview. We're a little emotional right now. This is a historic day for the city. This may be the day generations will look back and say, that's when Mississauga became a city. They dropped their ward boundaries, they dropped their fears, and they embraced a new vision for the city. Thank you. I think I'd just like John Danahy to come up, because he's my stable part, and just show you what we've been doing.
I've been a resident for 24 years in the area. I've never had the real opportunity to participate like this. So it was a real pleasure when Jim asked me, as part of the visioning that the Ratepayers started a couple of years ago, as we were looking at the area, to help use our skills at the university and the Center for Landscape Research to help give form to community ideas. So I'll flip through very quickly some of the things that led to that. But part of it is this character that's very strong in the area and leads to the commitment that people have. One of the big things was, how do we get that connection to the lake and the water? And we looked at the history of the area, and there's a very interesting heritage of the use of it, which presents this opportunity today This original use, the picture from 1954 that's up there, when it was a military base, rifle ranges. The community seldom got its access to the waterfront. There's this pent-up desire within Lakeview to deal with the post-industrial landscape that's emerged and take full advantage. But unlike many areas where you have a lot of private ownership of the waterfront, we've got this incredible opportunity at this moment to add another 5 kilometers of shoreline to all of Mississauga, and a scale of a site that's quite unusual to have. And so this is a real opportunity for the whole city to revision this. So what our role was to listen to people in the community, take their ideas, and help them get a sense of scale. So I'll flip through just to give you an overview of where this process has been, what some of the ideas are, but nothing's a fixed plan. What really is remarkable is how many amazing ideas are possible on this site. This is Mississauga City Centre over the site, as you can see, for a sense of scale. Burnhamthorpe Road we're looking south across the city centre, but most of the city centre fits on the area. That's the C&E grounds in Ontario Place over the site, fits almost exactly. The Metro Toronto Zoo, some people were asking, what about a big park? That kind of area. But what most people are quite surprised at were really interested in the idea of a hybrid of an urban park, an urban waterfront, and places to do, a real destination on the waterfront. They weren't just thinking of park at the edge and a picnic table, but something they could come down and do. So we took a number of examples, and to give you just a quick overview of these. This is Granville Island in Vancouver. So like Vancouver's key destination on their waterfront. Winnipeg's a city of a similar scale. This is their Forks project with their baseball diamond abstracted from. The Center Island from Toronto with the pier, the garden area. And the real opportunities to take a destination waterfront. The scale of the site supports a level of district and region-wide use and a city scale that most neighborhood conditions along the waterfront in Mississauga haven't been able to afford. And one of the ones, the bottom right picture, is trying to illustrate the idea. I mean, we host the Lake Ontario 300, the longest freshwater race, at least in North America, if not the world. And Mississauga is the host for that. That we don't have a really good place to host the start and finish of those races. We could develop a waterfront that did that. People are asking, what about the distillery district in Toronto? Well, this is the distillery district with a park boundary around it. So you could create a kind of destination down there. This is another opportunity is establish the old shoreline through around the plant, because much of the plant was landfill. If we created a canal and blocked it off, I know that Councillor Parrish wondered about Ottawa, and I know a couple of residents did, and we could create a canal zone that was protected enough to have ice and have a skating area. So this is taking, and other people talked about green energy. These are the windmills taken from Google Earth, brought into scale from Copenhagen's waterfront. So there's another aspect of rejuvenating the site with respect to green energy. And cities have been looking at redeveloping their downtown. So as we're building the downtown core of Mississauga, but even cities like Copenhagen, once we get into these processes, we quickly realize there are other features in the city to link with it and put together. And Copenhagen started to redevelop its waterfront. And this seemed to be what people wanted in our discussions with the community. And other examples, Malmö, Sweden is a similar scale city doing it. Even Copenhagen is about the scale of Mississauga in numbers. And the other aspect that we noticed from the visioning has been an absolutely amazing process that's been going on for the city as a whole. And one of the interesting statistics that I took away from the weekend was this key need to develop Mississauga now as a place that people, not just young people have a place to go, but people 20 to 35 return from university and live in their city. And one of these things is using the evenings, having places that people come to and go to. And I think this site affords some really unique opportunities, as well as the whole South Lakeshore corridor, all the way along, has some mature communities and opportunities to build these kinds of urban settings. So with that, we also were looking at employment. That was one of the key interests people had on the site. This has been a key employment site. And the notion of mixed-use developments, key destinations on the water's edge, but then linked to it, we could make some major public investment in the area. If we need a new university, this is the University Toronto, Mississauga, UTM on the lower left in green, and that's Sheridan College's campus. You could put both of those on this site, sitting on the OPG lands. Other ones are looking at eco-industrial parks, where you link campus development and industry and research together. And these are all ideas that came out of community meetings. So I'm just simply putting form to these and helping them say which ones actually fit, which ones have potential. This is a research center, a combined research center at UBC and a number of colleges in the Vancouver area in the bottom building. Maybe a new building research center is an amalgam of different research institutes looking at brownfield remediation that could go on the site, or green energy campus of that sort. There's an image of a similar scale area in Virginia on the ocean front in the upper right of an eco-industrial park. And this is Sheridan Research Park at the south end of it on the site. So you can see that we can turn to many examples. There's many potentials. But the core was to put destinations and look at them. And you can fit at least 3 major destinations on the areas right at the water's edge. A number of people ask about Chicago's Navy Pier as a place that gets you out on the water and you experience things. And that's Navy Pier in the bottom right. With a baseball stadium. Mid-level, this is one tier from the Pittsburgh Pirates baseball stadium place, so we took the lower tier as if it was a regional stadium. We had a major event space. You could hold various events and sports, and then we have the distillery district there. But the core is that green ribbon of trees. We have this opportunity to build an open space network. So I don't mean this to be a specific plan, but you can see that it's very possible to link the northern neighborhoods in Lakeview, who always feel shut off from the waterfront, through a series of green, either greened and pedestrian-friendly improvements to the major north-south roads like Alexandra, Ogden, Hague Boulevard, to get people down to the waterfront with a bicycle. And those people who live in a new development would be a 5-minute walk from it. The core idea was, how do you pay for this and how do you do it? How do you convince them? This is what really gave the project traction. And the notion we took was the best example that we could work with. I've worked with all the teams through our research center and over the years. The team working on the West Donlands work is one of the best practice examples we have for medium density development. This is a development that has 500,000 square meters of residential, 80,000 square meters of employment. Our current employment lands in this area, from our calculations, in the order of 110,000 square meters. So in an integrated mixed-use development, without even touching the existing industrial lands, could have those sorts of capabilities. That's about, the 500,000 square meters would translate into about $1 billion to $2 billion worth of development. And that's only one component. So the potential long-term sustainability of tax revenue and economic involvement and employment is really quite remarkable in what we could look at. So this next stages of looking at it could try to look at a whole variety of these things, maybe an international competition to look at options, or continue to develop it. These are examples of some of how the industrial phasing could be moved around. An eco-industrial park might be considered on the coal field areas and some of the areas around to the near the arsenal lands, providing a good buffer between some of the utility functions, sewage treatment plant, and parking and other things, and then have a mixed-use industrial area. This might be a university campus. It might be a combination of research center. And then over time, we might transition to mixed-use development. In a scenario like the one I'm showing you here, we might have 1 million square meters of architectural floor space and still be keeping 2-story buildings on Lake Shore along an urban park combined with those. The character we could look at, this is the West Donlands, was the precedent we used to match that. It's based around pedestrian and transit use. It's been studied. It does support streetcar use. And one of our key ideas in that is that to help generate the funding to make the community sustainable and provide a core for Lakeview, which it's never had at its edge, is that this population will support an LRT along Lakeshore and could connect between an LRT at Highway 10 and connect with the Browns line connections and bringing the Lakeshore back where it used to be, where it used to run along Lakeshore, linking Etobicoke and Mississauga. And again, within these plans and these schemes, all of these visions that come are all geometrically possible. These are inside those green zones look like that. Here's another image of that. I'll flip through a couple of these other images. So this is the type of 2 or 3 major destinations. You could have cruise ships come in. We haven't quite got to the point. There's been a lot of requests to look at what would a windmill out there look like, and a variety of those functions. So, and here's the aspect of the kind of medium density housing, walkable, and a streetcar LRT will fit into the triple row of trees that are possible on the south side of Lakeshore. So we have this is the type of vision that's possible. And if we could switch to the other video while Jim wraps up, it'll give you a quick animation of something.
Thank you. A lot of potential.
Well, this has taken thousands of hours of hard dedication on behalf of members of the community. But this is the first time since 1896 that all the citizens will be able to actually get to the lakefront. And this is Mississauga's opportunity to create something that's incredibly special, not only for Lakeview and Mississauga and the GTA, but we believe for the world. And it's something that this great city deserves, and we'd like to thank you very much. Thank you.
I don't think the staff of the planning department, I think I can say it, has had such a voluminous amount of ideas processed into the plan. We've been through many plans in Mississauga. I've been here for 30 years, and I'll tell you we've gone through quite a few. I think this is an exception, the amount of input that has come from the citizens of the area into a plan.
I'll just comment, I think it's incredibly exciting, the proposals they are putting forward. I mean, to have this amount of opportunity on a prime waterfront site like this is just incredible. And I really do applaud the ratepayers for their efforts. I mean, we do have a process underway in terms of the Lakeview Plan Review, and also the work that we're doing through our Future Mississauga that Bruce Carr's heading up. So between those two processes and working with the ratepayers, and obviously engaging the province in this one, because I mean this is exciting. The lands are owned by the province, and we clearly have to work with them on going forward. And there are issues around contamination of the site, etc. And we have to look at questions around market. But notwithstanding all of that, this is incredibly exciting, and I applaud the ratepayers' efforts.
Thank you. I just, for the benefit of the audience that is not aware of the memo that I distributed this morning as a result of the answer I received from the minister, the 850 megawatts that are required can be accomplished with the side project that has full approval, except for a power purchase contract being entered into with side. So that contract, or that project is ready to move with full approvals, except the power purchase contract. I think for good news, for many people maybe in the audience, I don't know, that this means that the Eastern Power Plant does not have to proceed. So it's now in the hands of the province of the OPA to proceed with with the contract that they feel is already underway, if they wish to fulfill the 850 megawatts that are required by 2013. So, an end of a story, which is very helpful. I'd now like to put the resolution. I have a little concern about one part of the resolution. Since the minister has made this decision, which has been my position all along, that we are not responsible for the electricity generation required in an area. That is not our job. Our job is planning, land use, site plan approval, etc. And that's why I've worked so hard to put the decision back on the provincial government and not on this council, so that down the road they can point out that you were negative. This council, I want to take the time to explain it to the audience. This council has been very responsible in dealing with electricity generation needs. We woke up one morning after EPCOR came to us to realize that we could have gas generation plants in all our M1 and M2 zones throughout the city. And if council will remember the map that came forward, it was so blue, and it meant that gas generation units could be all over the city. So our staff worked with the OPA and the OPG to limit where these units could be established. And I believe the council was very progressive. We did not use the usual municipal response to something, ban it, we don't want it. We were very responsible as a council to say we will accept the units based on the need, because we certainly want our economy to operate, we want people to be able to turn on their lights, etc. And so a year ago, I think it is, if I'm not wrong with my timing, we approved a plan as to where sites could occur. And that is the plan that came forth. Now, I have to tell you that the Lakeview site was one of those sites in that plan. We agreed a year ago that the Lakeview site could be a potential. That was in the plan because it was already zoned for utility use. I would prefer that the end of the resolution read that we strongly endorse the decision of the Minister of Energy that the Lakeview site is not required for electricity generation. That would be my recommendation to change the resolution. Because I'd like to keep it back in the province and not this city accept responsibility for any situation that might occur that would indicate that we were short of electricity generation in this area. But that, I would offer that to Councillor Corbison, rather than the second and further the council, the city inform the Ontario Power Authority that we are strongly opposed to the construction of a gas generation plant in the Lakeview community. Councillor Corbison. Oh, Councillor.
I was just going to ask, Madam Mayor, with your indulgence, to have Corman Corbison read the whole motion with the whereases. She's putting a lot of work into this, and this audience should hear what she's proposing. And I would like to hear the whole motion read out, if that's all right with you.
No, I will. Motion up to the council. I thought that you didn't wish the motion read. Yeah. Whereas the Lakeview community in the southeast gateway into the city is the southway gateway into the city of Mississauga. And whereas the Lakeview Committee has a long, underdeveloped stretch of lakefront, primed for recreational business and residential redevelopment as a continuation of the Port Credit waterfront. And whereas Lakeview is one of the few areas remaining in the city which can be fully redeveloped into a planned community incorporating the visions of Mississauga for the 21st century. And whereas Lakeview can be redeveloped into a street-based entertainment and urban living center, which will attract tourism from all over the Golden Horseshoe. And whereas recently released reports on the median prices of resale homes across the GDA indicate the area east of the Credit River and south of Dundas average an increase of 32% since 2005, while the average in the rest of Mississauga was 14.3%, making this a prime location of choice for businesses, recreational facilities, smart growth residential development of great variety, and other exciting development prospects. And whereas property and business tax income from entertainment facilities, hotels, light industry, commercial business centers, and smart growth residential buildings located in Lakeview could generate to $2 billion in development will create tax and tourist revenue for the city for many years to come. And whereas commitment of land required for the construction of the gas power plant will dramatically alter the possibilities of a new and exciting vision for the Lakeview community. And whereas the city of Mississauga has been intensely involved in visioning workshops to shape ideas for Mississauga, and with community consultations on building a city for the 21st century. Whereas the citizens of Lakeview have contributed greatly to Mississauga, Ontario, Canada, by way of the Arsenal Lands Musicians Factory, the Lakeview Coal Generating Station, the Lakeview Water Treatment Center, and Lakeview Water Treatment Plant. Whereas this is a moment in time where there is an incredible opportunity to create an exciting, vibrant, and visionary Lakeview community for the 21st century. Whereas the placemaking process and workshops conducted as part of the review of the Lakeview district policies did not include the Lakeview OPG lands because their future use is uncertain. Therefore, be it resolved that the Lakeview District Policy Review Study address the Lakeview OPG lands for uses other than a power generating facility. And further, that the Council of the City of Mississauga inform the Ontario Power Authority that we are strongly opposed to the construction of a gas power plant in the Lakeview community. And further, that the Council of the City of Mississauga encourage staff to commence planning for the redevelopment of Lakeview as a diverse, multifaceted community for the 21st century. I would therefore suggest that in somewhere in this resolution that we confirm that the province has decided, the Minister of Energy, that the Lakeview site is not needed for electricity generation. Councillor Mullen.
Well, this really
No,
is...
sorry, Councillor Corpus. My apologies.
That's all right, I pressed my button and
Okay, sorry,
it,
confused me a little bit. These gadgets are great, but
I don't know who's more emotional today, whether it's Jim Tovey, John, Jim Judge, or myself, but this has been such an experience for me dealing with, number one, these two individuals. They are both very, very busy people. They have great expertise, and everything they have done for you and your community has been on a volunteer basis, and they have put literally thousands of hours into this. I don't know how we can ever thank them, but we will be And Madam Mayor, you are right. We did reconfirm, if you will, a utility designation on this site. It was probably at least a year and a half ago when we were going through the Mississauga plan. I remember at that time, Jim Tovey appeared before us and asked us to redesignate those lands, and our collective response was wait until the district plan review. And that's why this is now coming forward, because we are in the process of a district plan review. I did not, could not, and shouldn't have tied the resolution down to what you saw this morning, because as John pointed out, this is one of many, many, many possibilities, and it will go through a very public process, continue to go through a very public process. The biggest point that I wanted to say to the province was, this is, and you've read it in all the media, our last opportunity to create a vibrant urban waterfront. It belongs to us, and we must take advantage of it today before it's too late. So in retrospect, maybe I should have brought a resolution forward earlier, but things have changed over the last couple of years, and you'll often hear Madam Mayor say, and I've said it many times as well, that the waterfront is a jewel in Mississauga's crown. We can either make that jewel a diamond, or we can make it a rhinestone. I think this resolution today will make that jewel a diamond for all the community. I would like to thank the schools for coming out today. This is a great day in your history, but it's even a more important day for your future. And this is one day, I'm sure, long after I'm gone, you won't forget, and you'll say, Council had the vision, they did the right thing, they made the right decision. So thank the schools for coming out today. To Charles Sousa, Charles, you've been very strong on this right from the beginning, right when you ran in the last election. I know you've worked very closely with the ministers, and I really, really appreciate all your efforts, and we are handing the torch to you. I think our job is done for the most part, but I hope this helps you in the message that you take back to your colleagues and to the Premier. So thank you very much. And I think, so often it's certainly important to make the right decision, but it's just as important to make that decision right. And we've made the right decision by saying we want to maximize the potential of the waterfront. We've made the decision right by taking another heavy industrial use out. To the residents that are here today from Lakeview, I'd like to thank you. I'd like to thank you for shouldering your share of heavy industry over the years. And we will continue to shoulder our share. As you know, the sewage treatment plant continues to expand. But I think today what we're saying is enough is enough. You now have something to look forward to in your community. Just much like we've done for Port Credit, only a much bigger opportunity because it's such a large parcel of land. The Mayor is right, we do have to work with OPG, as the Commissioner said. We do not own that land. And that's going to take some partnership, I would think, Madam Mayor, with the private sector, with OPG, with the province. But I think we're up to it. Look at the support we've got. We can do it. This isn't a fantasy. It's not even a dream. It's a reality. So once again, I would like to thank everyone for coming out today. Madam Mayor, I'm not comfortable with amending the resolution because I haven't, unless you got a letter, and I know you distributed a package just before the meeting. Do you have a letter from the minister quoting what you want to add to the resolution?
The letter clearly indicates that the minister has confirmed the OPA's estimation of the need for megawatts in South Mississauga. And that is, it's 850.
Yeah, no,
so in my opinion, it means that the Lakeview generating site is not required, nor is Eastern Power required.
I'm not comfortable putting that in the resolution because they have not confirmed. I would suggest that Lakeview is not required, but the message that I want to send to the province is that exactly what my resolution says, that we inform the OPA that we are opposed to a power plant on that site. The minister has not confirmed in writing that Lakeview is not required. You're suggesting that, but
I would like to tie the minister down that Lakeview is not required, because they have the right to overrule our official plan. They have the right to overrule our zoning bylaw. And I would like to tie the ministry down that Lakeview is not required. That's the issue. matter what we say, if the province decide, they can overrule the OPA as well. They have the right. They overruled it on the site in Toronto. And they can overrule the OPA. That's why it's so important to get the decision from the minister and not from the OPA. So, in fact, your message, it really, instead of saying Ontario Power Authority, it really should say we advise the government that we do not want a power site on the Lakeview site. I'd even be strong.
I believe Councillor Mullen was talking about amending the resolution to include the Premier, the MPPs, as well as OPA.
Yeah.
I just talked to her very late last night.
All I want to make sure is, I deal with the province a lot, and I like to tie them down. It's the only way.
Well, let me hear from some of the other speakers, and let me give some thought as to, do you have the wording in front of you that you're proposing?
Yeah, I'm subject to it. I just said, we strongly concur. You can add that if you want. And that we strongly concur with the Minister of Energy that the Lakeview site is not required. And that ties the province.
But again, the minister, and I don't want to get into wordsmithing, but the minister has not confirmed in writing that the Lakeview site is not required. That's the problem I have with the amendment.
I'd like to time down to it, but that's fine. If you don't, he can come back and say, well, all I said was that all was required was 850 megawatts. Anyway, Councillor Mullen.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, and I am seconding the motion, and the friendly amendments really speak to sending it to the Premier and the Minister of the Environment, the Minister of Energy. I'd like to congratulate the community, very proactive, visionary in terms of keeping our waterfront as a people place. And to you, Charles, I have to say that in a very short time that you've been our representative, you have been a leader and you have been extremely supportive of us. Charles initiated a meeting some time ago with all of the ratepayer groups across the south, extending from rural Windsor Drive all the way over to the border of Etobicoke. So all of the ratepayer groups in Mississauga South were at that meeting. The meeting was with the Minister of the Environment, and at that meeting, we all reinforced the position that we had that, and I'm going to reinforce it today, that no power plant should go in residential communities. And we also talked about the South and the fact that we've had our fair share. Not only have we had our fair share with industry, we've had our fair share with the treatment plant, the water treatment plant, the expansions and the impacts to our community. So it was an extremely productive meeting. And I thank Charles for, as I said, leading the way in that meeting and putting our position forward. And I really truly believe the minister listened to us. I certainly hope the Minister of Energy and the Ministry of Environment engage in discussion. It seems to me they work in isolation. And it's time that they got together to look at what is the impact of power plants on residential communities. And the position my community has taken, and I took at council several years ago when this came through, was we did not want it next to a residential community. And we now have an airshed study in my area that only reinforces that position, that we are stressed to the max. It's time for a new beginning, a new start, a new visioning process as we take a look at intensification along the Lakeshore Corridor. It was interesting this weekend. I attended a very small portion of the visioning process. Very interesting comments. But what really came to my mind was the importance of the environment and also the importance of the waterfront to all of Mississauga, not just to Mississauga South. So it states it very clearly. I think when we went down to where the stickers were, there's cars in the audience, and it showed the destination of the waterfront was almost 77% of people were looking at the waterfront as a destination point. So I think today's motion puts in place what should happen on the waterfront. my position, and I think the community's position on the south with regards to any gas power plant should stay. And I'm asking you, MPP Souza, to bring that message down to Queen's Park. So thank you for being here. It's exciting. I look forward to it, and hopefully our commissioner will take a look at what was presented today and come back with a report. Thank you.
Councillor Danahy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, my first thought with regards to the wording, Councillor Corbison, I agree with you entirely on your wording in that this is our resolution and what our thoughts are on behalf of our constituents, and I don't want to sort of guess where the minister is at a point in time. This is what we're saying, and we're going to stand up and say so, and hope he comes along, as opposed to trying to meld it somewhere down the road. So I would agree with the wording the way it is. The only other thoughts that I have, though, I mean, I've got to tell you, in many respects, I think this is the most significant day that certainly I've ever been to City Hall. There's a phrase that I love to use that, with great respect to our staff and ourselves, and the suits and the skirts and the business outfits on, real people don't live at City Hall. Real people live out there, and the real people came in today. And the way you have handled this matter to the residents is a case study in proper political activism. Just brilliant. To look out across the audience and see so many distinguished faces. I acknowledge Mayor Searle, who's here. It's wonderful to see him. And so many. And so many other distinguished community leaders that over the years have become known to us. I just think you have so much to be proud of. And at the top of that list, I have to tell you, I'm fond of another phrase, the one that says that in war, defeat is always an orphan, and victory has many, many generals. Well, before too many generals want to get into the general's car, let me tell you who is your general and who won your battle. Councillor Corbison and what she has been able to do to marshal the resources to win what is one of the most incredible political victories I've ever seen around this table in the following sense. Didn't have to euphemistically shoot off a gun. Showed up the morning of the battle, and your enemies are now your friends. They didn't just capitulate, they gave you concurrence. That is monumental. And I want you all to know, because I think it's more than just a sidebar. Councillor Corbison, because you beat me up real good this last month, I'm going to tell you a story of how emphatic she's been, to be brutally candid, and the councillor is aware of this. The last time I looked at this file in detail was when I sat on the Intersource board, and I was gauging where the electric corridors were as to how easily they could access a gas-fired site on this site. That's what I did last time I looked at it. As of yesterday, she turned me around 180%, and I'll be voting with her today to not put one there. My point being, things like that don't come readily, and it's because of the efforts that your councillor has marshaled to make this come to pass, and you should be very, very proud. Recognizing the lieutenant, Mr. Tovey, Mr. Souza, who's equipped himself so where you've shown me a lot, you should be very, very proud. The final thought that I would leave with you is, really there's two. I hope you bear in mind going forward that one of the reasons you achieved such a resounding victory today is, and my apologies to some of the other councillors who may not like this analogy, the juxtaposition I'll draw is when we dealt with the chapel property down the road. And in my opinion, some of the residents who lived near it were of a mindset that, isn't it great, get everybody out, we want it, sort of put a fence around, and all of us that live within 100 yards just give us the key. You didn't bring that vision here today. You showed a marvelous item that won't belong just to your community, to the city, to the GTA. We have the ability to make something here, I mean this sincerely, that could be world-renowned. To me, that was the greatest asset that you brought forward, and certainly turning me around. You showed plans, and instead of let's just put a picnic park here and it's our backyard, it's let's welcome the broader community and recognize some of the principles of smart growth, places to grow, destinations, etc. You showed actual buildings. You're welcoming that it will be developed as a destination of some kind, and I think you're so dead on in that vision, and it's why you have my support. So in many respects, I hope you enjoy the afterglow of today. The real work starts now, and it's nothing new to Councillor Corbison. We really have the opportunity to do something spectacular here, and that's the challenge going forward. So So Councillor Corbison, take a big bow. I would not have dreamed 6 months ago this would have gone the way it has, and that victory rests on your shoulders and everybody else that played a leading role. Congratulations.
Councillor Dale.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I too want to commend Councillor Corbison. I think it's an excellent example of her leadership of not only how well she works with the community, but on behalf of the community. And I'd also like to express congratulations to MPP Charles Sousa for his leadership with respect to the role that he has played in this regard. And I'm proud of the council today too, because I think, as Councillor Yanika said, it's important that we do take a strong stand with respect to how we feel with regards to the potential of this site. We now have a great opportunity to reclaim the waterfront. And, you know, I think of half a generation of the Lakeview generating station being there, now that it's physically disappeared. The potential is endless with regards to what can be developed there to make it really the place we want it to be in the city of Mississauga. And I think of examples that were shown are just remarkable. I too agree with my colleagues in saying that it's wonderful to see that the community comes together and brings forward some positive demonstrations of what potentially could happen on that site. I was interested, the other day I was thinking of how large the city center is within Mississauga here. And having lived in Mississauga all my life, I tried to look at that area of land and project it down to Lakeview, and I thought it's got to be pretty close to the same size, and it was demonstrated today that in fact it is. So like I said, the potential is endless. I can envision what a great opportunity we have now to bring the streetcar line in all the way to here in Ontario, link up with what we hope will be the light rail from here in Ontario at Lakeshore all the way up to Brampton. I said the potential now is just unbelievable with what can happen within this district. And I know it will happen in a positive way because the community, as well as they've worked in such a short period of time, now have a great opportunity to work with our staff, work with our councillor and the council to develop a site that we can all be proud of, not only for Mississaugans today, but for generations to come. And I commend all of you. Thank you.
Councillor Parish.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'm going to add my congratulations quickly to the visionary thinking of Professor Danahy and James Tovey. They are the most persistent pair I've ever seen, but they are also people who dare to dream, and they've done an amazing job. The skill and the tenacity of the local councillor, Carmen, is like a little pit bull when she gets in there, and she's done an amazing job. I want to compliment Charles Sousa. He's a real rookie MPP who could teach a lot of us old politicians of future. He's very dedicated to the community he lives in, and he's done a marvelous job. I want to compliment the persistence of Mayor McCallion. People at Queen's Park are afraid of her, and they do run away from her, but she insisted on a letter be presented today, and she got what she wanted, so that is a key piece to this puzzle. I'd like to thank the media, actually. We like to dump on them. They've all picked this up, they've all run with it because they recognized something exciting was happening. I'd like to particularly thank Rick Drennan, who wrote an editorial in the Business Times a couple of months ago that brought tears to my eyes. And he also lives in the area, and he also got the rest of the media interested, so I have to congratulate everybody. The letter that's under contention, I'm going to disagree that we put any changes to Carmen Corbison's motion, because I want to read 2 paragraphs to you so you know how dangerous these waters are. First, this is from the minister to our mayor. First, I want to reconfirm the need for new gas-fired electricity generation capacity in the southwest Greater Toronto area. The Lakeview site clearly continues to be one of the possible sites considered for new generation, given its access to transmission and the fact that it's been a generation site since the 1960s. So he hasn't given up on it, and we need to load a Charles gun and send him down there. And we need to tell him, councillors are your first line of defense. Every level of government above that gets a little more distance between the people that are in this audience and what's really should be done and what's right. We want to sandbag with you. We want to make sure that Charles goes down to the minister and says there's a strong resolution saying we don't want the plant, and we're about to make plans for something else here, so go look somewhere else. And I'm not convinced that the other locations anywhere in Mississauga are needed, because if you talk to Tovey, and I'm sure he's a savant of some kind, he's looked at power plants that are already in existence that can be upped in their production. We don't have to build anything new. So we're in a mode now where we're looking at new, exciting ideas, inspired by you, inspired by all the people that I mentioned. My last comment is to the students who are here. This should renew your faith in democracy. We were up against a brick wall on this a couple of years ago. And this is people power, this is democracy in action. All of you go back, study hard, and come back and challenge all of us in our seats, because I think you can really make things happen at this level. It's an incredible city, it's an incredible councillor, it's an incredible team, and we are going to stop the plant, but we have to send a very strong message with Charles. So I won't be supporting any amendments.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, I won't repeat everything my colleagues said. I agree with the commendations that they have made to the councillor and the community and to you, Charles. But I want to say at the last visioning workshop that I attended, it was made very clear that one of the things that we have been neglecting as we move forward into the future in Mississauga are those jewels that are clearly in our crown that have gotten a bit tarnished over the years. That is our waterfront, first and foremost. And I would wager that if you ask most of the residents, except for those of you that live along the waterfront, but if you were to ask people within Mississauga and outside Mississauga, have you been down to the Mississauga waterfront, they kind of say, what, Mississauga has a waterfront? Oakville, they know, has a waterfront. I think years ago when we approved the Port Credit Plan, we felt that that was a very significant day in the future of Mississauga, because we were creating a vision for that part of our waterfront, and I think it was a very significant day. And this is another significant day that we are moving forward to move east and further embrace what we can do with our waterfront. And I think the plan that you brought forward is very exciting and can lead us to great things, and to really, as Councillor Corbison said, make it a diamond in the area in Mississauga, and certainly make history. I think years ago, this whole issue of the gas-fired plant, as the mayor said, really caught us unaware several years ago, and I had one that was proposed in my community as well. And those of us that were faced with this sat down and said, well, we can't say no because it's the province that makes the decision. So how can we handle it as best we can, that if they do go forward, that we have some control as to where they go and what the impact on the community would be. And I think we did, working not only with our staff, but we also worked with the industry. And we came up with a set of criteria and changes to our zoning bylaw that I think were exemplary and which protected many, many of our community. Unfortunately, Lakeview was not one of them. Councillor Parrish has read the comment from the minister in the letter, and when I read the letter, initially I thought, wow, this is great. He said we won't need Lakeview. And then I read that sentence in the letter that said Lakeview is still under consideration, and that raised great concern. I think I'm going to suggest, Councillor Corbison, that there may be an amendment we could make that would make it very clear to the minister that we are assuming that the other statement in his letter, which is taking the gas plants already under contract into account, and with priority given to conservation, renewable energy, and upgraded transmission, the OPA has advised that a further 850 megawatts of gas-fired capacity will be needed in the Southwest GTA by 2013. If we were to assume, and I think we are assuming, that for example, the Scythe plant would be able to generate that 850 megawatts, then I think we could honestly be able to assume that what the minister has said is that that would accommodate and we would not need Lakeview. And I don't think we would be criticized that strongly for assuming that, and I use the word assuming from his letter because he has not said it clearly. So what I'm going to suggest, Councillor Corbison, if you would consider this, if not, I would certainly support what you have said in your recommendation. Adding a whereas, the Minister of Environment stated in his letter of February 26, 2008, that only a further 850 megawatts of gas-fired capacity will be needed in the Southwest GTA by 2013. And whereas this 850 megawatts can be provided by other already approved power plants to be constructed in the Southwest GTA. Therefore, and whereas Council has interpreted, I'm trying to read my writing, interpreted this to mean that there is no further requirement for an additional gas power plant in the Lakeview community. Therefore, then going on with your resolution that we are opposed to a plant being in the Lakeview community. And that might, I guess I'm trying to sort of massage what the mayor is asking, that might in some way put the province in a position of having to defend or oppose what our assumption is, even though he has clearly said Lakeview is still being considered. I think we're pointing out to him by that part of the resolution that it does not have to be considered because there are other ways of providing that 850 megawatts of power within the Southwest GTA. So I would throw that out for consideration. As I said, if you feel that it does not fit with your resolution, I would fully support what you have brought forward, but it might be an opportunity to put a little bit more pressure on the province.
Councillor Corbison, could you comment on that before I ask another speaker?
Thank you. Again, I would prefer to leave my motion as it stands. It's clean, it's simple. I don't want to tie myself into a figure that came out yesterday. If it changes 3 months from now or 6 months from now, my message is very, very clear. Charles Sousa feels he can take this strong message back to the province now. And as I say, it keeps it simple. Things change so fast in this world of gas power plants that I don't want to tie myself into something that could change and then it waters down my resolution. So,
if you pass this resolution as you want, and then in another resolution acknowledge the letter from the minister and confirm what Councillor Sadie was outlined, I think she's done it well. I think I'd like to, I want to acknowledge the letter. I want Council to acknowledge it, that he has said that 850 megawatts is what OPA has decided. He confirms that that is so. And therefore, it ties them down to something. I want to tie them down to something. And I think maybe a separate resolution to that might be the answer, which would not interfere with your resolution, saying we strongly oppose. And we can say we strongly endorse his, in another resolution, strongly endorse that the comments that he's made. Pardon? Not in this resolution, separate. Separate resolution, so therefore it does not.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Adams.
Madam Mayor, just to clarify, I don't endorse wholly his letter dated yesterday. He states very, very clearly that the Lakeview site clearly, he uses the word clearly, continues to be one of the possible sites considered.
That is not what Councillor Sadie said. She took the paragraph where what she has suggested is the paragraph where he confirms the 850 megawatts.
Well, if it's the wish of council to look at a separate resolution, I don't suggest we do it today.
No,
We don't have the time to
No, because the letters.
massage it and think about it. But again, my motion that I'll be asking for a recorded vote on is the one that you read out this morning, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, fine, there's no problem with that. It's just that we must acknowledge his letter and either comment on it and disagree with it or accept portions of it that we want to accept in order to pin him down. He did respond, and it's on council agenda, so we should deal with it at some time, whether it's today or at the next council. Councillor Adams.
Thank you. Well, I'm pleased to support Councillor Corbison's resolution. You've put a great deal of work into all of this. It's a very exciting day. We've got all of these wonderful proposals coming forward, and I'm one of the councillors that actually faced a possible power plant coming to her ward some years ago, and it was slightly different. It was rather close to residential, but it was also immediately next to prestige employment. And people had just come and purchased the land, and they were creating these really great paying jobs. And the developer had come forward and said, you know, I'm hesitant to invest in this area if this is what's going next door. And that's sort of a very alarming concept. We don't want to become the armpit community. You don't want to be like a Rochester or Pittsburgh when you drive by and it's this rather regrettable situation. And across the city, we're already facing so many things. And we've got all of the highways which crisscross Mississauga and make it the great success that it is. But we're also, frankly, being harmed by all of that impact to our airshed. We've got the airports, we've got all sorts of heavy industrial across Mississauga, which makes us rather successful. But going forward and into the future, we want to attract those great, well-paying jobs with full benefits that pay mortgages. We don't want the MIC jobs. So I am delighted to endorse this resolution, and I hope, I'm reading through, and you know, I don't necessarily want to parse out the meaning of every single sentence, but I'm reading the Minister of Energy's response to the Mayor dated February the 26th, and he writes that a further 850 megawatts of gas-fired capacity will be needed in the Southwest GTA by 2013. I'm interpreting Southwest GTA as all of Mississauga. I think that's something that most of us around this table can agree to. We've done more than our fair share. We've done more than our fair share, frankly, for 2 generations. We want to be responsible, but we're already living the impact day to day of Scythe Orway, which is just immediately abutting us in Brampton. And as the wind blows, it blows over Mississauga, and that's where the environmental impact is blowing over. It's blowing over us, and that's the general wind pattern in Ontario. We've also got the one up at the airport, so I think this is a wonderful day where we say enough is enough. Let's vision on to some more exciting things in the future. And Jim Tovey, you've just presented just a host of exciting things, and it's the things that we're all saying. We're all leaving Mississauga to go to Toronto to do wonderful, exciting things, and wouldn't it be a beautiful day by the time these kids grow up and they're my age, they've got wonderful, exciting things to do here in our city. We're this gorgeous city of 700,000 people, and we're really coming of age. So I am so delighted to support you, Councillor Corbison. You've put a lot of work into this. My hat's off to you.
Councillor Prentice.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and my thanks also to Councillor Corbison and to all the residents that have worked so hard on this. This is truly a good news story. And I guess from my point of view, it shows that the residents and the council are working together, have achieved this today in conjunction with working with Charles Sousa, the local MPP. And I think that only talks to me about partnerships, about levels of government working together to achieve things. I think that's what democracy is all about. Too often we're fighting one another on issues as opposed to working together to try and represent our residents to the best of our ability. So to me it shows the partnerships and how good government should work. I'll keep my comments very brief because I think it's all been said and I agree with it, and particularly Councillor Corbison probably got her training on the green fields. I know I was part of that as well. It's very, very frustrating when you have your residential neighborhoods totally inundated by a project such as gas power generation in the middle of your community. And it doesn't matter what ward in the city it's in. If it's near or next to residential, it is tragic. And I know how my residents were affected by it. I know how other residents of our councilors have been affected by it. And you know what? It needn't happen. That's the point I want to make. It needn't happen if we all work together. So congratulations, and I'll be supporting your resolution.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I'm the last one on the list, and I'll make it very brief, but I did want to add my congratulations and a job well done to all involved, from the ward councillor to the community, to Charles, to Jim and John and all of those. I did watch the cable show last night. It was interesting. Not sure what John Carterzola was doing or saying, but I guess he added somewhat to the discussion. But it taught me a lot when I watched that last night. I think this could be, it's a red letter day, and I think this could be a study for a student in urban design and urban planning. It is, in fact, it's truly amazing that the community, the councillor, as was mentioned, the other levels of government, all can come together and work together with everybody playing their part. The mayor has played her part at the provincial level and is very attuned to how that operates. And we're already prepared to allow the mayor, because we know that's her expertise. The ward councillors worked with the community. The newly elected MPP, I don't know how long you knew for, Charles, but around here it's at least a year, has worked with the community and understood the community. The community has understood all of the other players. I do, though, really appreciate the fact that this is a community, and I've got to say it's probably the first that has come before us for any reason to ask for densities, to work with us on all of the provincial plans, all of the plans that we work within, all of, and understand that, smart growth, Bill 51, all of those issues. And I heard you say last night that, I forget the saying, something about we want density in our backyard, we welcome density in our backyard. That's unheard of. So I'd like to congratulate all of you for that. There's been a lot of work gone into this in the last couple of years. I know that, and I very much appreciate it, but there's still a lot of work ahead of us, and I think there still can be some controversy. I don't think we're done yet at the province, and we're sending Charles on a great journey here, and a great learning process, and a great venture on behalf of his community. But at the end of the day, I believe that my grandchildren will be playing in some parks down in Lakeview, and their families and myself will feel that they're safe. We'll all be enjoying our lakefront as it should be enjoyed. And many of us have traveled the world and seen what has been done at many of the waterfronts, lakefronts, ocean fronts, and are able to celebrate other people's victories. Let's welcome the world to Lakefront, Lakeview, and celebrate our victory in a few years' time. Thank you.
Well, today is the culmination of a undertaking that this council undertook many years ago. I recall when we voted $2.5 million to buy the Ratepayers Marsh. And then we went along the lakefront, we bought the Addison Estate, etc. And this sort of fulfills the program of this council to protect the waterfront. You've spent a lot of your taxpayers' money on acquiring property on the lakefront. We still have a few to do. There's still one in Councillor Mullen's ward that we have to get on with. And we have the Imperial Oil lands that we're working very hard, 58 acres, contaminated soil. We're working with Imperial Oil to see if we can acquire that property and develop it for park, trails, etc. So I'm very proud of what we've accomplished. I want to redo a little history that you might be interested in, because I think that it highlights the leadership of Jim Tovey and the professor. And if Councillor Kennedy was in the audience this morning, he would remember the opposition we ran into when we wanted to put Lake Promenade Park. I'm sure Councillor Corbison remembers that. He and I even went down and visited and sat in the homes, convincing them that Lake Promenade Park would be a great asset to the Lakeview area. It wasn't easy, but council made the decision to proceed with that. You will remember that, don't you, Councillor? Strong opposition. So Lakeview has changed. We certainly did not have the council chambers filled with people supporting our approval of Lakeview Promenade Park. I can tell you, we had opposition to it. But we made a decision and moved on. And I'm sure you appreciate what we did at Lake Promenade Park. And this is just, even though it was beside the Lakeview generating plant. So things have changed, and I think it's the leadership in the community that's changed it. And that's where Jim Tovey and the professor has played a major role. I could not believe the attendance this morning in bringing this forward. The turnout of people. So Jim, to you, a lot of credit goes to you and the professor, but I believe you were the leader that got the professor involved. As much as council wants to do, it needs the support of the residents. And this morning is just an outstanding demonstration of the support. The Lakeview community has come awake. It's been asleep for a while. But this morning, it's wide awake with great ideas. And I can assure you, this is the culmination, not completely yet, but a major contribution, the culmination of a waterfront plan for Mississauga, and with little controversy, like it is to our next door neighbor that's trying to develop theirs. What a moment of progress. So congratulations to all of you, especially as Councillor Parrish says, to the school children, because this is your future. It's going to take a lot of planning and a lot of work in order to implement it. I have to tell you, it's not going to be easy to convert this to the dream of the citizens. But I want to assure you we'll work very hard, and I know I speak for staff. They too are excited that we will work to make it happen. As we are working to make the future of Mississauga, the city core, you know, it's important too, and other areas of the city, to make it a very exciting city for the 21st century. So thank you for coming this morning, and now I will put the resolution, recorded vote. Madam Clerk, could you ask for it?
Absolutely. You have all heard the motion. All those in favor, please stand.
If you could leave quietly, I know it's a large group, we can then get on with the presentation of our staff awards. And I might say to you, the citizens, you know, we have a great staff at this city, and this morning we're recognizing those that have just made an extra effort in many ways to make this city the great city that it is. Because behind every successful city is the staff.